good evening, and we are back with another episode of Just Incredible Woman for the month of August. So we have another, for those who don't actually know, for the month of August, we have tried to do the impossible by interviewing an incredible woman for the month of August. And tonight, like any other night, we have another incredible lady called Alicia. Nou sy het 'n incredible bio, maar sy het vir my voor die dood gesweer dat ek moenie daai bio lees nie. So I'm going to give her over so that she can have the opportunity to introduce herself. So Alicia, hi, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Bionica. Thank you so much. I am, as you mentioned, I have threatened you. I'm a very meek person, very soft-hearted person. But I get to your gedreig, so it's my fault. I'm going to do the introduction. I think I can say I am a Mitchell's Plain mom of 3 boys. And I, until about 3 months or so ago, sometimes I can't count also. But up until April, I was employed as an editor at a publishing company in Cape Town, where I worked for about 13 years. And but I've been a stay-at-home mom since the beginning of May this year, and I've just launched a very special children's book called I Miss Daddy, which I wrote with my 7-year-old son. That story also came about because my husband passed away in January due to COVID-19 related complications. So I'm a young widow. An Afrikaans woord, wat sê woord?
A weduwee. Yeah.
Weduwee vrou. So never thought that I'll be at the age of 43 a weduwee vrou, but I am. That's why I'm in the children, and I'm raising 3 boys, and I'm alive at the most incredible time that we have. And
Yeah. So you kind of gave us a little introduction about how your a part of how your journey started with your husband passing away with COVID related issues, and I mean that was in January, you said. So it's still very new. How, before we get to the book, how did you manage to get or manage through that journey or venture?
I think it's not a case of actually managing through that process or that journey because I'm still on it. In the beginning, I did not think that I, my thought of grief and mourning was a bit obscured in the sense that I had always known that there's something called grief and mourning. But the thing with grief is that until you really experience it for yourself, there's nothing that prepares you for it. It's almost like marriage. You can go for counseling and all of that, which is great. Um, but until you're married, you're in it. And I think it's almost similar for me with grief is that because I am a Christian and my husband was also a Christian, you know, we have, this incredible faith that we have and trust and, that we rely on God. And so when I went in the beginning into the whole grieving process, it's not like you go into grieving and you decide, okay, today I'm going to start my grieving journey, you know. But I think in the first few days and week or so after my husband's funeral, especially because it was buried on the 23rd of Jan, I, I was on that high, I would say, of prayer, coming out of praying for my husband for a few weeks, while he was in hospital. And so you're on that high, and then your husband passes away, and you're still on that high, because your faith in God is strong, right? and you haven't really come to terms with the loss because you still feel it's so unreal. So it's almost as if that guy is still here, that person is still here. So then when I would say the realization me a month or two after the funeral, and I realized, oh, this is this is life, you know. So it's
Yeah.
not something I would, for me, grief has not been something that I have managed to navigate my way through. But I'm coming to realize that uh, grief is actually something that you live with. And sent me actually a message a few weeks ago about something that somebody else wrote. And they said that grief is not something that you complete. It's not like a test or an exam, or a grade that you finish. Okay, I've cut the grade, I've made the grade. But it's actually something that you live with. And that has given me peace because now I know that, I don't have to rush through the process of, okay, it's been 6 months, stop crying, or it's been 6 months, stop um, thinking of the person, you know. So the journey of loss and grief has been um, totally uncharted territory. I've never been here. Um, I posted a few weeks ago also about just trying to give people some insight when you lose a loved one. And it's not necessarily, especially because of COVID 19, because passed away of COVID 19. And when you look at COVID 19, so everywhere in the media, every day, on any given day, they were giving updated stats on how many people passed away. But when you are the person who has lost a loved one, it's not just my husband lost. That was just a very minor part of in the bigger scheme of things. Because the greater impact is how do the people who are left behind deal with it, you know? And so it's the crying, it is the asking questions, it's the having to deal with your kids. Like in my case, I've got three boys. They are 18, 7, and 3. And at the time when the dad passed away, they were 6 and 2. We've all had our first birthday without him since then. So it is it's not just me managing my way through it, but it's also my time with my boys going through it. And because they are three individuals in their own right, we are all we are all in it together, but almost in parallel worlds because we are all grieving alongside each other, but also as individuals. So it's managing that grief process. It's like the work in progress. The journey, is far from over for us.
I definitely hear you and I do understand you. My mom passed away. Actually, we will be celebrating a year anniversary on the 6th of September. Hers wasn't due to COVID. So she had cancer and they did the biopsy, and because of that, she got complications and she passed away. So I do understand that. And so my next question would probably be, as a mom of children, do you also find that when it's a partner, it's a parent that has passed away, you almost absorb that grief first for the kids before you actually handle your own grief?
I think that there is definitely because now you are the sole covering of your kids. So you obviously want to shield your kids and take as much as you possibly can away from them in terms of their pain and their heartache that they are experiencing. Um, I wouldn't say necessarily that you um, experience it first. I think for me, we all experience it simultaneously. But because I'm the adult and I have more courage and I'm 43, and I can talk to people about it. So I'm probably the first one to speak out about the grief.
mm,
But the grieving process of, or not the grieving process so much, but experiencing grief, they've experienced it from the moment they heard their dad passed away in
mm,
you know. So
mm,
so it is not almost as if, okay, I started grieving first, and then the eldest one started grieving, and then the middle one, and then the baby started. No,
mm,
because we were all immediately plucked away from our husband. But I think, coming having that kind of emotional intelligence, you know, I'm maybe a little bit more experienced in that sense. We have a bit more emotional intelligence, and therefore I can, recognize in myself
mm,
that my two kids, for example, the younger one was 7 and 3 now. They don't say to me, "Mom, I'm grieving."
mm.
They don't use that. Like, "Oh, Mom, I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm mourning today." You know, they will say, "Mom, I miss Daddy." You know, um, but they felt it, the separation. They felt it immediately, and I think also the other thing is also in terms of that loss or the separation, because my husband actually was in hospital from the 26th of December, and he passed away on the 17th of Jan. So he spent that 3 weeks in hospital, and we didn't see him, other than video calling every day, right?
Mm,
So they was actually separated from the dad from the 26th, but also because we had myself had COVID. So because both
mm.
my husband and I had COVID, so kind of isolated in the home, right?
Okay.
So there was that separation prior to him going into hospital. So
Mm,
it's probably about a month between when he tested positive. In fact, it's exactly a month from when he tested positive on the 23rd of December, and then we buried him a month later. So that separation from them, they they experienced it immediately, you know. But
yeah.
it's challenging.
Yeah. Do you also think that because there is like with the whole COVID epidemic and people staying in hospitals longer before like they deceased, that is almost like a, I almost want to say a prep area, because you get so used to them not being there. So when they're actually not coming back home again, it's almost like you still feel that they are in hospital.
My son said to me last week, I mean, it still feels, I know I'm an adult. I know my husband, he has passed on, he's not coming back. Although I did say, God, if you decide you are going to do that presidential pardon does every few years, and they decide to release a few people, I'm like, if my husband is you decide to release 10 and my husband is the 10th person, I'm going to take him back. I still sometimes feel like, but my 3-year-old said to me last week, he was a bit sad. And he said to me, Mommy, you must tell Daddy to come back, you to come home from the hospital. So he still thinks, as a 3-year-old, that, Dad is in hospital. Still feels a little bit like he's there because he was there for a long time. So for him, he didn't get a sense when I took my husband to hospital on the 26th of December. I said to him, I'm taking Daddy to the doctor. So he understands the concept of the doctor and the hospital. But although he's gone through the whole funeral with us, he some still thinks, dad's in hospital. Or you also say, tell Daddy he must come home from heaven now. Because I've explained to him, Christian believe that there is heaven, and and you must tell Daddy to come home, you know. Um, Yesterday when we launched the book, would have been my husband's 46th birthday. So on Monday I asked my kids, what do you think, should we have cake, seeing that it's Daddy's birthday? And the eldest one said, I'm not, maybe not, maybe, I'm not sure. And Matthew said, the 7-year-old one said, yes, we must. And then Daddy can come back, Daddy can come and fetch cake, and then give take cake to friends in heaven. And so So we had the launch yesterday, and this morning we cut the cake. And then he said to me, "But isn't Daddy going to come fetch some cake?" And I had to say, "But boy, that is not possible because Daddy's in heaven, you know." So there's still that kind of, that amongst the kids, especially the two little ones, that I think hoping maybe Daddy can come back, you know. And that is also part of the grieving thing that is not easy because, and you feel sad as a mother for your kids because it hits you like a ton of bricks, like iemand het hulle face gevat en jou binne jou maag geslaan, in that way. But you try as far as you possibly can to let them know that you are with them, that they are not alone. Like I had to get my boy, the middle one, get him into bed a little bit earlier tonight because so that he can be rustig in time for the interview. And I know, like I looked at him and he had that look on his face, and I said, "What you thinking?" And he said, "I just miss Daddy." And I said, "I miss him too." And I just hugged him, held him a little bit, and told him that he's sleeping under his dad's favorite blanket, and made him laugh, reminisce, bring the memories back, and so on. But it's still a journey that we are on.
How do you prepare a child for, we are going to have Daddy's funeral on Saturday? How do you prepare them? And I also heard the fact that they actually went, obviously because it's their dad. With my mom's funeral, we didn't take our girls with, just for the fact there's other people there, and people tend to like to kiss children, and like, no, rather not. So they actually watched the funeral live. But it's almost like they were fine in the moment because Oma Mine is not going to be there. And then 3 months later, it hit them. Like, where's Oma Mine? And so they keep, and I also think the thing for me with the grief is they keep on repeating, so where's your mommy? Your mommy is dead. Your mommy is dead. It's almost like for them to get it settled in their mind, it's like your mommy is dead. They need to say that. And it's almost like, yes, you as a mom make it soft for them. It's like, oh, my mine is no longer there, and we've prayed with the candles and all of those things. But it's almost like hearing those crass words that make it normal for them, almost kind of digs deeper into your heart that, okay, so your mom is not there anymore.
Yeah, I think
How,
for
yeah.
me there wasn't really a way that I was sort of preparing. I can't say that I had a specific way of preparing or that there were certain things that I did. I did try and explain to them what was going to happen, right? So my husband and I are, and I still sometimes say "are," like we were, and I am still here, born again Christians, right? So for us, we know, and I know personally that my husband's body was buried, but I know his spirit is in heaven because that's what I believe.
Yeah.
For me, as the wife, I don't want to say I couldn't feel, but I wasn't that much caught up in the funeral in terms of the burial, that I'm going to bury my husband at a particular cemetery, etc. Um, because I remember a family member still coming to me on the night that my husband passed away. And a relative came to me and he said, "Hey, you must make sure that that's your husband that you're burying, you know?" And I said to him, "But that's not my husband. That's just the body, I believe that he's gone to be with God." And so I said to him, like, as kom kry, ek het vir Sipho daar begrawe en hy is in die Ooskaap, dan moet hy in die Ooskaap gebere word because I had that kind of confidence. That's the kind of confidence that I have that my husband is with God, right? So it's not for me when I go to the grave, it's not because I know he's not there. He's in heaven. you know.
Yeah.
But I am an adult and I'm the parent of three kids, you know. And so my 18-year-old maybe understands it a little bit more, but especially for the 7-year-old and the 3-year-old, you know, I felt that I wanted them to go through that process of knowing that dad's body has been buried so that they can have some kind of closure to that and see that happen so that the disbelief, you know, is dealt with, or the doubt, like, is he really gone? You know, so allowing them, for me, having the actual funeral and then being present at the funeral and being present at the grave and seeing, the coffin being lowered into the grave, it was part of that process of them getting some kind of closure in some way. And I'm not, by no means, like an expert on grief, or don't ask me about the 5 stages and first is denial and then comes anger and then I mean, I've written about it over the time of 23 years. I've written about things like that, about grief and the thought and all of those kinds of things, the ways. But um, but I just felt that that moment of allowing them to be part of the funeral, gave them some kind of closure. I remember when my husband's when the little one saw my husband's coffin, he said, "Daddy's in the boat." He saw the coffin as a shape of a boat, rowing boat, you know. So, and he said to me, because I asked him about it, being at the grave afterwards, and he said that no, Daddy is in the boat, and the boat is drowned, you know.
Sure.
So, so kids may try to express uh, their own level, if I can put it that way. And
Yeah.
and so there was nothing that I really could do to prepare them, other than to explain to them that we are going to have, a service, and the body is going to be in a coffin, and the coffin is going to be buried in the ground. But that is Daddy's body, and but Daddy is in heaven with Jesus, you know. And so if you ask my kids now, they will say that he's in heaven.
Yeah. Um. So we just about a week or two ago, my mom was actually cremated. So daai was 'n nog 'n story op sy eie, because now we had to explain that Oma is not there, because the question was raised, why does other people have crosses like Jesus where they are being buried? Where's Oma's cross? And so now you have to explain that we actually burned Oma's body, and now obviously the younger ones, like, did Oma feel it? Did Oma, you know, all of these things. So as again explaining and I think in the moment you kind of find these little unique ways of explaining it and separating the body from the soul and what is happening at the stage. And I think there's a lot of cartoons out that actually make it a bit easier for kids to understand, like the one movie called Soul. So they explain all of these things a bit more, so you can kind of relate it to a cartoon. And that's why I like the fact that you also, guys, you wrote a book, so it's just easier for kids to understand that part of it. um but again, it's like you said, it's a journey. And somewhere in there you also mentioned there that do not ask me about the 5 stages of grief. Do not, I've written about it many times because you are a journalist for many years. And it comes back to that topic where we had with our previous interviewees, is like, we spoke about the issue of rape. We have all this information about what needs to happen, but when you go through it, it is then something totally different. Something that you don't know where you must start, where you must end with, and you're kind of just
Mm.
going through it and making it day by day. Um, for the younger ones, how are they coping now?
I think, like, when sometimes, and people, I get that question a lot. How are they coping with it? And it's sometimes difficult because what is, I ask myself the question, what are the yardsticks that we use to measure or gauge how they are coping. Because I don't know. I don't know what the yardstick is, you know. Um, but what I can say, and something that I am so grateful for my kids, especially the two younger ones, they are they have so much joy, and that's how kids are, and that's how kids should be. My kids laugh, they jump, they play. In the time that my husband was in hospital, they would, and it was in December, so they would be playing outside in the backyard, and sometimes they would have the dad's phone or maybe my phone, and I'm busy in the house, and then days later, in fact, like after the funeral, I came across so many videos that they made of themselves playing, having vlogs, look at the 7-year-old saying hello folks and things like that, and they would play and they would laugh, and my kids still play and they still laugh. They do cry as well, you know. Um, Matthew, I'm seeing that he is more confident now to talk about my daddy passed away, and that is also part of, I think, the journey with the book, as given him that expression that he can say. I've tried to explain to him that he can talk about, how he feels, either to myself, to his um, older brother who's 18, teacher, who, he can say to us when he feels sad. So from a perspective of how is he coping, I would say that, he is trying his best to adapt. He's adapting as best as he can. What I'm finding with the, and just on that, it wasn't necessarily, I would say he's much calmer now. In the first few weeks or month or two after my husband passed away, he would have a lot of outbursts of fighting, screaming, kicking, scratching his brothers, especially his older brother. Um, there was a lot of that kind of fighting and so on, followed by lots of, you know. So there was definitely that kind of demonstration of anger, whereas the little one was a little bit more quiet. And Buddha is, um, my 18-year-old son, Malachi, he's, a lot quieter as far as, expressing his grief is concerned. So, and I also have to respect him. He's, because he's 18 and it's not me just to demand, but I talk to me about it. But I try as possibly can to know that I love him, that I'm proud of him. I work on their nerves, like I don't know other mothers, if they, if anybody out there has the formula of how not to work on, um, the kids' nerves at times, they can maybe also get in touch with me. I'd like to have that formula. Um, so um, Malachi is grieving or dealing with it in his way. He feels again, what's the point of crying? It's not going to bring daddy back, you know. But it doesn't mean that he's not grieving for his dad. Doesn't mean that he's not missing. Not doesn't mean that he's having to cope and adapt. You know, he's trying to do that. And for him, for example, the coping, well, not necessarily a coping mechanism, but it's important for us to have a support system. So he belongs to our church's youth. He gets involved in the programs, and that allows him to also have, an outlet of whatever he is dealing with. You know, Matthew, 7-year-old, he has the book. He's excited about it. He's at school. He's in grade one. So he's got his friends at school and he's got his cousins, etc. And then we come to Joe, who's 3. So Joe was 2 at the time when his dad passed away. He just turned 3 on the 1st of June. And so it's almost like 6 months since his dad passed away. And what I'm finding now is that now, as he's a little bit older, he's able to communicate more words. So he's now a little bit more expressive about missing his daddy compared to how he would express it, you know, um, himself 5 months ago, 6 months ago. You know, 3 months ago, he would just say, "I'm crying for daddy." You know, now he can say to me, you know, "Mommy, you must tell daddy, he must come back. He must come back from heaven. He must come home from heaven." He's very outspoken. He's much more outspoken right now. You know, so I think it's the grief has always been there for him since the beginning, like I said. But as he is developing as a child and his ability to communicate increases, you know, his sadness a little bit more. So, but it's been important for me to have that support system and let them know that they are not alone, you know. And I also try to let them know as far as possible that daddy loves you, daddy is praying for you, daddy is with you. Um, and so, you know, that is how we trying our, you know, to cope. And also, just to say that our faith and my husband and I together raised our kids in the fear of the Lord, um, and I'm trying, you know, to continue doing that, you know. And so the faith part for us is a part of coping with it, you know, um, because we are not alone and God is with us. And I try as far as possible to my kids.
I like the fact that you mentioned the things with coping, and that's why exactly why I asked that. I asked it especially for that reason because it would seem as soon as we go through grief, people will like, "How are you coping?" As if it is though like a measurement for a piece of cake that you need to get done with in order to get this result of this beautiful cake of "I'm now done grieving." um and I also think we kind of need to, this word grieving is so attached to, funerals and death, but yet we grieve every day. We grieve if we lose a friend, we grieve if we lose a job, but we don't see it as that, because grieving is meant for death. It's kind of
Yes,
for that. And so we don't really give it the appropriate, I think, what is the word for it, dignity, almost, as like, just because I'm happy today doesn't mean I'm not grieving. Just because tomorrow I'm gonna cry and give an outbreak, it's still part of what I am dealing with here. And it shifts and shapes every day. I think with my kids, they are fine most times. um for them it is more when, um because my mom was sick for a while and she had like a tummy issue. So every time someone almost gives off that symptoms of tummy, they immediately think they are going to die. So it is like, no, it's fine. They are just going to go to the doctor. So you almost have to break that thing that they associate with now. Is, but oh, my main had that, and now she's in hospital, and then she's no longer here. Almost break that link up for them, and like, no, this was a separate issue. This is a separate issue. That was a separate issue. Um, but I also find that they kind of go through it in little drips and drags. Like, I'm fine today. Tomorrow they want to talk to Oma. To, tomorrow they don't want to go do whatever because Oma used to watch them. But it's I think, especially in our colored community, we do not like to sit in our emotion. So it's like, if something happens, we need to get over it and quick. Let's get done. Let's move on. Life move on. The, you must be sad quickly and then go on. You must go to school. You must do all that. So you can't be sad tomorrow for today's stuff. You must be sad today for today. And I like the fact that you kind of holding that space for your kids, that they can be whatever, whenever they feel in this grieving process. And because it's not a
yes,
stage, it's a process.
yes. Well,
So
definitely, I think
yeah.
it's important.
Now you can continue. Sorry.
So no, I'm saying I think that is important because, but it's at the same time also for me, I try to show my kids that um, we don't necessarily just dwell there in our grief, just dwell in our sadness, you know, and that is something that I'm actually grateful because this the support that we've received from people, and because my sons, there were certain things that we needed to do. For example, I needed eventually to go back to work. Although I've now subsequently resigned, um, because for my personal reasons, um, I've resigned, but I had to go back to work. You know, my oldest son, for example, was in matric last year. So so he was 17 when he matriculated, and they got the results a little bit later than usual because of COVID. And then he turned in April only, you know, and just like at the beginning of the month, he started his sort of first job, right? But he's got to go work. He's not that he's got to go work. That was the option that we went with for him right now. Uh, the opportunity came for him to do an internship, but he's got to do something, right? We had to go to school. We had to. I couldn't keep him at home ever. You know, um, especially same also with my little one at the daycare. I had to eventually. I mean, I think he probably kept him at home a little bit longer. And then and Malachi was at home because he didn't have a job and he couldn't go study. Etc. And but so we had there were certain things we still had to do, right? So what I wanted them to know is that because I've seen it in our communities, I know that, and not just with COVID-19, but in our communities and communities all over, not just in South Africa but around the world, especially in communities like ours where we live. I'm from Mitchell's Plain, so we are exposed to trauma from a very young age, and it's not necessarily direct, but it's also indirect trauma. There's gangsterism, there's gender-based violence, there's crime, there's I think the trauma of poverty, um, rape, abuse, all of those kinds of things, loss, separation, job losses, um, you know, uh, all of those kinds of things that we actually have to endure, um, and so, but because we come from sometimes that communities, the mistake was in aangaan, you know, and so, and because of that, we just need to be strong. But the tragedy is sometimes we never get to deal with the things that
Yeah.
were traumatizing, that were agonizing, that were painful, like a rape, like an abuse, like a job loss, um, being disempowered or humiliated, etc. And we take those hurts with us, and we become adults, and we see even it in our kids, kids uh, who are being bullied. They deal with that internal pain by themselves, and sometimes it gets so much that they cannot cope with it anymore, and they think that it's better for everybody if they just take their own life, or they can't take the pain and they commit suicide because of not having the freedom, to and the safe space of communicating that, what, today I'm struggling. And I come from a generation of strong women. I come from a generation of strong women, you know, and so um, that is something that's in my DNA, my immense vs, your Kung Fan Dan, that is it's strong. And I had to realize at stage, actually, I think about 2 months ago, I messaged my siblings and said, please pray for me today. I'm not feeling so good. And just to be able to say that, please pray for me. Um, you're allowing yourself to feel to be vulnerable because we live in a time in a society you know we cannot afford to be vulnerable because there are so many people who will prey on your vulnerability. And so, and so we have this thing wrong all the time. And but we're not actually coping with it or we're not dealing with it. And so for me it was important that I can communicate that with my kids as well and be generous with myself. And this is also the other part. You struggle. You can be generous and be kind to many other people and allow them and tell them it's okay to mourn. And dan draai jy om en dan gaan doen jy die teenoorgestelde, when it comes to yourself. And I am also learning to be generous towards myself, with that concerned.
Sure. So you actually just answered my next question because I was going to ask you, how do you keep yourself, because as mothers, as strong women, we oftentimes we fend off all the other people and things from our kids, and we are the last that like kind of, ons dis ons amper soos ons wil nie, maar ons kan ook nie, because why life needs to go on. And so you actually answered that question about how you kind of just keep yourself in the midst of everything that is going on around you right now, which is very good. And yes, I totally agree. We are always faced with trauma, so it's almost like it's just another thing and we move on. But I always tend to, when the kids that I work with, I'm like, I kind of teach them to keep these little pods. So I feel this way now. And feelings are great, right? You can feel all you want to, but yet you're still part of the world outside. And so I can feel this, but I need to do this. How am I going to kind of feel now but still go to school and then do whatever I need to do? So we're always teaching them to manage, because I think sometimes you also like over exaggerate. We want to keep them too safe, but then we don't prepare them for life. And life is that right now you can lose a friend and tomorrow you need to go work, like you just rightfully said. And so as kids, if we can kind of train them like you kind of are doing already, it's like, yes, this is what we're feeling, this is what we're going to do now, but we also need to get ready for school and work. And if you feel anything, you can go talk to teacher, but you are allowed to feel. And I also think in our community, when it comes to the kids, en ek weet ons kom van daai age af waar ons was geslaan gewees vir als. So as jy nou feeling gehad, hulle slaan jou sommer vir die feeling, hulle slaan nie eens vir jou vir die ding wat jy verkeerd gedoen het nie. Hulle slaan vir jou van jy wil jy hy ja. So we ons slaan amper die feeling uit die kinders uit. So when I talk to a grade 11 child and I say, miss, you must only know that I put on all these masks. I look very happy, but there's a lot of stuff happening in my life, and everyone is expecting me and expecting me. And so they learn from a young age to put on all these different masks. And then when it gets a bit too much, nou wil ons vingers wys en sê, ja, maar die tieners weet nie hoe om dit te doen nie, en die kinders, but we kind of haven't allowed them that space to feel. So I want to congratulate you on. En ek weet ons weet nie altyd hoe om die goed te handle nie. We kind of just do it in the moment. So for just keeping that space with your child. But before we go talk to the book, how and what does it mean for you to be a woman in this day and age? Van ons is mos daarom nog in August month.
I think like I said, we're living at an incredible time, and I know that there is so much adversity that I don't need even to tell you what it is, right? Because we face it, you know. There are so many. The odds are stacked high against us. But the reason why I'm saying that we're living in an incredible time is because, you know, um, we have great potential as women. Not just potential, but we have um, we have so many treasures on the inside of us. Um, what the world needs, we've got. You know, I, 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 I often say this to some ladies that I know, you know, that you are just what your situation needs, your family needs. And so for me, I think it's an incredible time to live as a woman because, um, you know, I, I can recognize that I can do things, you know. Um, I, I can pursue a career if I would like to, but I can also change my mind, you know. Um, I can, I joke about this to my friends, but I can be free in myself. And I also realize many women might not even feel like that today, where they can be free to say this about themselves. I would say, I can be an editor and sell pies. I can sell pastries. I can sell perfumes. I can be free to be me. And for me, what it means to be a woman in this time is that, you know, I don't need to try and be like a man, compete like a man, run like a man, you know. I can be me. I'm a woman, you know. I can use my traits. I don't have to, I can be, I can have difficult conversations when I need to have difficult conversations, like conversations. I can have those conversations with people and I don't have to feel um, inferior, and say, I'm a woman and I can't because I'm having a conversation with a man, for example, or but also to realize that as a woman, I have, the opportunity to build other women,
Sure.
you know, and not just to build women that I know, because sometimes it's easy to like the people who like and love the people who love us. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
the point. I mean, it makes it so much easier if you give me a good reception, just to love over you and etc. But we have the opportunity to change the narrative at the moment. You know, um, what it is that we want to see. What we want to hear, what we want to read. You know, we can we can create those things, and that is something for me also from a spiritual perspective. God created us, you know, given us that ability to give birth, that He has not given a man, you know. And so on a spiritual level, but also in the natural, that we have the ability to create things. You know, women create businesses. Women can, they start up organizations. Women can, they start up movements. They feed nations. You know what I mean? My mom, uh, it was a birthday actually on Monday, the 16th, and she was a nurse, in a factory for many years. Um, and she still sews. She's retired, somewhat retired, but she still sews, you know. But and changed my narrative. She's one of my biggest supporters. She would encourage me to say, yesterday, for example, when we had the launch, when I came um, out and she saw me, I could see that proud look as a mother, and she can support me. And so, as women, we have the ability to build people, and you know, we can have the ability to comfort people, and we also have the ability to to mess things up, you know. But I am grateful that I am alive in this point in time because I believe that the contribution that I can make um, far outweighs the weaknesses and flaws that I have. And believe me, there are many.
Sure. Ito, amper my grill gegee daar. Oh,
Yes,
yeah. But
oh,
again, you again just you as like a sticker up a sticker. Every woman that came on the show said the exact same thing. So as women, there's a difference between hearing something and actually putting it to action. And so if every woman on the show has manifested that, it means we must just go and do. We need
Yes.
to go and do. So I really, again, ek kry alweer 'n oomf om dit in te gaan. But ons is mos daarom nie vir die boek, nee. So, can you maybe tell us a little bit about the book? Moenie alles nou vertel nie.
Okay. So a few months ago, I think it was probably the second, third week of me being at home. In May, I was sitting down with my nephew, and he was drawing, with these crayons and pictures of us and his dad, etc. Um, and I thought to myself, wow, how awesome would it be if I get him to draw and um, I can put together something like as a book for him, because I have
Yeah.
a journalism total background, and I asked some questions about his dad and to tell me a little bit more, and I took these words and captured those words, and
Okay.
then as while that was happening at the same time, I had also, we were in that space where I needed to comfort him, seeing him grief, seeing my other kids grief, you know,
Yeah.
um, and at the same time also having the struggle of not struggle, but wanting to find that peace in my heart, because I didn't have that peace, in a sense of, my husband had died, so now what, you know? And like I said, I come from a generation of strong women and women who really make a difference in others people's lives, not necessarily in big ways on TV and in the media, but in small ways, in quiet ways. And I, being a Christian, I refused to believe that my husband died in vain. I was like, no, there is no way. Like, I refuse. I was like, it gaan nie werk vir my. It doesn't work for me. It can't be just a case of COVID got him and that's it, and now I'm grieving no ways. And so the more I was sort of asking this question quietly, not telling anyone, and sort of asking that sort of questions to God, what I received was that, yes, I saw with Matthew talking about his dad, how much it meant to him, you know, um, that, by doing this book, and actually publishing it as a proper book with an actual, illustrator working on it,
Yeah.
that there are so many kids like my son who's also grieving out there, because
Yeah.
then I realized that it's not just like I said earlier, the person has died. It's also not just the adult, the wife, the mother, the mother, but so what about the kids, you know? And so that's where, I came up with the motivation, or the inspiration came to me to actually uh, print this book. I don't like to say publishing. Publishing feels too grand, like it's published it and, for
Yeah.
fame and all of that. But I wanted to print this book and make it available, for free as
Okay.
far as I possibly can. And so we've just now, I don't know if I can show, maybe this way.
As hy daar kan ons hom nou sien, ja. Ag, jene.
Is it- So we've
Yes.
just today launched this book called As a Daddy, and the back it says it is the story of Matthew English, a curious 7-year-old boy whose father passed away due to the coronavirus, and illustrates the bond between a loving father and his son, and seeks to highlight the young boy's grief. So this book is
Sure.
about, just um, highlighting that grief between a child and his father. And I thought also in this time that in also because we have so many kids who are fatherless, and there are many um, dads who are falling short, but they are great dads. They are great. I can say they are great dads. You know,
Yeah.
they might not be the richest. They might not have all the, you know, um, the niceties to give the kids, but they are there for them, and not just necessarily dads, but father figures. Or it could be uncles, it could be opas, you know,
Mhm.
could be a teacher at school that has just come alongside and sort of nurtured somebody. And that's the thing with this book is that the book is about, you know, um, showing in, I think it's about actually letting others into the world of a child.
Sure.
Because we always, like here, Alicia is an hour long talking about herself and the kids from her perspective. But how often do we get the opportunity to see the world from a child's perspective? And with the book, we are allowing people to see what death and does from a child's perspective. And we're also wanting with this book to let children know they are not alone. You know, they are not alone, and um, there are kids who are feeling like them, but that there's also support. So the book touches on, Corona because we're living in this time. It talks
Mhm.
about difficult things like, you know, hospital visits and funerals, and and then there's just some, nice surprises towards the end of the book also, to make the
Mm.
child engage with the story. Um,
Okay.
and it's available right now, and people can reach out to us and
Yeah.
purchase the book because what we want to do is we want to make more available kids. So we've done like a small print run of about 1,000. It was
Okay.
doing it on my own, out of my own pocket, and 1,000 of those we will start identifying schools in next week, uh, those areas, and make available schools, you know. And the more we are able to sell, we will be able to print again to give, another round of donations. And the thing with the book is also we want to make it actually available in other languages. So we want to translate
Oh.
it in Afrikaans and isiZulu and, you know,
Mm.
get it to in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga, you know. But that is probably the vision for late in the year or next year. But for now, we start where you are, you know.
Here we go.
Right now,
Yeah.
I'm starting in Mitchell's Plain, but definitely this book is written not just with us in mind, but communities in the Northern Cape and in the Free State, because grief is universal.
Yeah.
There's not a child affected by grief, and there's no adult that's also, you know, that is not affected by separation and loss. So that
Ek is definitief daar. Ek gaan vir my 'n boekie kom koop, moenie worry nie. Because I like exposing my kids to different things, and again, we prepare them for the house. And then kry hulle die grootste skrikke buitekant. So I always prepare them for everything, whether it agrees with us or our values or not. But I prepare them so that they know they can, when they are faced with it, how they can respond to it. So I will definitely a boekie. Dis nou die een ding van dit. And again, just before I will maybe give you a opportunity, maybe just to end off with a pulse of wisdom daar voor is baie. You can decide if it's for women, if it's for everyone, if it's
I think that sort of started with this book, the heartbeat of this book, especially in relation to COVID-19, which is the time that we are in, and it's taken so many things, um, freedom that we've not been able to enjoy, you know, being able to family, we've lost life, people have lost jobs, it's sad, people have lost jobs, security, they've lost their homes, because of COVID-19, of lost. Or not a statement, but the declaration that I'm making is that COVID-19 will not triumph over us, but we will triumph over it. And that is something that to me is a declaration that I'm making, that will not take my joy. It might have taken my husband, but it's not taken my reason to live. We will triumph over it.
And I think a lot of people will agree with you there. Because I mean, yeah, I think we all feel loss in some way or another. And again, like I said, we kind of associate grief and loss with someone dying, but yet we have all experienced it through even just this epidemic that we are going through. Um, I like this whole thing that we spoke about today, which is loss and grief. And I want to kind of also do this quote where and I think it sums up everything you just said today, which is popcorn is prepared in the same pot, in the same heat, in the same oil, yet kernels do not pop at the same time. Don't compare. And the quote says, don't compare your child to others, but I want to just jump a little bit. Don't compare your loss and grief with everyone else, because that is a topic that we are going through. So even though we all experience it, we all go through it sometime or another, do not compare how you go through it compared to what other people go through it. Um, and I think give yourself some space, give yourself some time, give yourself just give yourself, because I always think we always want the next thing, we always want it to be over, always want it to be done, that we kind of don't go through it. We kind of there's that pause, and so when a cycle is not complete, it will keep on coming and coming tot hy klaar is. Like as jy 'n masjien aansit en die cycle is nie klaar nie en hy pause eers op 'n plek, gaan jy mos nou weer van start en begin en jy weer was. En dan moet hy tot jy by die rins en die spin weer uitkom. And that is a lot of times that happens with life, because we don't let the story or the process run through us. We kind of have to go through it every time again. So with that, I want to say thank you, Alicia, for granting us the time and your story in this space. Ek weet soms is dit 'n bietjie nie is nie maklik om dit te doen nie. Dit lyk baie maklik wanneer jy daar sit nie en almal hou vir jou dop agter. Dit lyk baie maklik. But I'm sure it took a lot of effort from you. But I again applaud you for giving up this time. Ek het amper van die stoel afgeval when you said yes that you want to come you want to come on the show. En toe ek je CV sien, toe sê ek, ai, Jesus Vader, waar is ek nou vandag? But thank you for joining us and telling your story. I will definitely put your link up on our page just so people can connect if they want a book, and they can do that. And I'll also put on the post and everything that your details are on for that. But again, thank you for your time. Dankie dat jy die kinders vroeg in die kooi gaan sit om dit te doen.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. And I think that, in this time, we've lost the ability to talk to one another. And being able to connect means so much. And that is something that I said, I've lost a husband, but I've gained so much more. I've gained new, connections with people that I never thought that would happen. And for me, I'm absolutely humbled and I'm thankful for the opportunity.
We have net so 'n comment hier, so net so voor ons gaan. Nicola says, like you don't get over trauma, loss, grief, you go through it, Mrs. McGee. Thank you for that pointer. En dit is baie ding is. Die een ding wat jy nogals geleer het, we always say we go through something. In church one day, our pastor said, you don't go through it, you grow through it. And I thought that was very profound, because if you don't, you kind of lose the essence. Like you say, my humanity van it. It didn't like pass on net vanaf. Something needed to come through this, and it was the book that is probably going to save a few kids from feeling and lost at the moment. And so there's always a thing that you need to grow through, whatever your trauma, your loss, your grief, you need to grow through it. And dan kom ons kom meer pragtiger uit aan die kant, né? So thank you for that, Nicola. Yeah, and so for again, just ending off everything, tomorrow night we are almost at the end of our woman, ik play Mother's Day, Women's Month. Um, oh, interviews. So tomorrow we're doing how do you find your purpose? Ne? So every night we are trying to interview an incredible woman. And normally when we talk about incredible, dan soek ons mos die list van goede wat hulle gedoen het and how they saved the babies out of the fire and all of these. No, as die daai mense nie. As normal, our normal ladies that you see, rondloop, that has gone through their own journey, that has incredible stories for you. En ek leer uit 'n daaglikse basis uit wat hulle uit doen en hulle they stir me up tremendously. And so just on that point, I want to thank every woman that has been on the show so far. And again, thank you. So is net nog 'n comment. I'm super proud of you, my sissy. I'm one of your biggest fans. Hi, Nia. Moenie kom jy so steel hierso nie. So yeah. So you have another supporter there. And I like the fact that when we bring women on, we have actually established this nice support structure of us and support system for women. Wherever they next time when they see you, they're gonna know this is the person I can go talk to about loss and grief. And they can go talk to the lady about breast cancer and so gaan ons aan. But again, thank you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you saying yes for this journey.
Thank you.
For everyone else, stay blessed, keep safe, keep sane, en hou vir julle warm is baie koud daar buite mense. Bye.
Yes.